Thank you. Hello everyone, Russ of Aquarimax here. I'm going to start out by wiping down the frog's front glass because I like to feed them. So let me just take a minute to do that. I'd like to show you how the moss is doing in here and the liverworts and everything from Heather Jensen, who sent those in. Oh, that's really wet. I might need another couple of paper towels. I don't know if that's going to work or not. Here, let's take a little bit, let's go in a little bit closer. And we'll just start out that way. Shall we? There we go. Thank you. Jay's Crazy Obsession is in the house. And Supreme Gecko, awesome. And Heather Jensen. So thank you again, Heather, for sending the mosses and liverworts. They're really starting to take off. It's pretty cool. Some of them more than others, and that's normal. That just happens, you know, to see what works in your particular setup. But let's just take a little glance before we feed the frogs. A little more in depth here. So you can see there's some liverworts right there that are really doing well. They haven't been in here that long, but can I zoom in a little bit? Yeah. See, those are looking really nice. Hey, Salvo's in the house too. Hello, welcome. This moth here, I like how it's doing. It's a very kind of bushy moth with sort of rounded leaflets. And that's pretty cool. And then over here I just put a bunch of them because I knew it would be nice and bright up there. And you can see a lot of those are starting to really perk up. There's even some liverworts in the corner there that are doing well. And then I put some over here in this corner. They're starting to pick up too. This is not from Heather, but this is a recent addition as well, and that's doing pretty well. And then this one, I might actually move this one because it's not doing as well right here. I mean, it's starting to grow a little bit, which is cool, but I think it's not doing as well as it might be. And it may be just that I need to move it to a better spot. Not sure. So this enclosure here, I mist this approximately once a day, and it seems to do pretty well on that. I do need to trim it more often, just to be honest. I do trim it on occasion, but it needs it again. The selaginella needs to be trimmed back. This fern probably needs to be cut back. This fern definitely needs to be cut back. I cut back this philodendron not that long ago, so it's not doing too badly. But there you go. I tried to put some Oakley fig in here. I think it just likes better ventilation. It's not dying. It seems to be growing a little bit, but it's not all that excited about life like it is in my small gecko vivarium, my hatchling vivarium. So yeah, it's about once a day. Sometimes I do it twice a day. Once in a while, I don't do a day, but it seems to do pretty well. Regardless, okay, there's the paper towels I used to wipe it off, and there's the tank. Okay. Whoa, Damien just got some white tigers. Pumpkins, my daughter's pumpkins. Okay, sorry. Just trying to get the camera back on. Here we go. All right, well, we've already got 20 people in the house. That's nice. I'm going to try to look at the chat a little bit and see what I missed. Some isopods. Okay, we'll try to make that happen. Get some isopods in. And the geckos. We can do some geckos too. Cool. By the way, those of you who reshared, reposted, whatever, rewatched the Isopod video, it's doing really well. I would say it has indeed gone viral to some extent. It's got thousands and thousands of views over the past few days. My channel has gotten a bit of a boost from that, so I'm excited. I'm going to just feed the frogs and see if we can get them to come out. Maybe we can look at them. Just a light feeding of some Heidi mixed with melanogaster, just a few of each. Light snack for the frogs, really. We'll see if they come out. And I'm going to get a gecko out because I can reach one from here. I was still remaining tethered to my microphone. I can reach Tiki here, our first crested gecko that we ever had. How long have we had her now? Probably coming close on 5 years. Something like that. Here she is. And let's see. Bored Goat, doing research on isopods. Awesome. What have you been learning? So, Supreme Gecko, what lighting do you have on the enclosures? Okay. Say hi, Tiki. There you go. She's a buckskin, and she's our buddy. She is one who will jump up against the side of the enclosure, the door, when she sees us because she wants to come out, which is pretty cool. Not all reptiles are that excited about coming out. And thanks, Board Goat. Glad you like the enclosures. I wish they were a little bit more focused, but what do you do? The rubber duckies video. I'm not sure. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to answer Wally's question, Supreme Gecko's question about the lighting. Okay, this one on this vivarium here, this is from the Biodude Josh Halter, and this is a Tinkman Herp, I think the 22-inch fixture. It's really bright. It has white, red, and blue lights built into it. Really nice. I like how it works. It really makes things pop and things grow like crazy under it most of the time. So yeah, I've been happy with that for sure. It's been a nice one. Oh, okay. You want to go to the bathroom? Nice. Thank you. Good thing I still have some paper towels. Huh? Oh, I did. What did I do? Did I throw them away? Forgot where I put them. Well, Tiki the Crested just decided it was time to use the bathroom, so there we go. Gonna clean myself off here for a second. Okay, now, let's see. Kind of scrolling back and see what I can find. And Rachel's Reptiles, you got your first isopods. Congratulations. And I'm glad you're enjoying my isopod videos. They are awesome. So Tropical Exotic, she did have 2 babies actually, both parthenogenic. One of them is essentially adult. It has a few developmental abnormalities, including a very small eye on one side and slightly off-kilter hips. Other than that, it is healthy and doing well. The other one is a little less developmentally impaired. It's got 2 eyes that are a little bit different in size, but not that different. Are you done? I'm going to put you back in just for a minute, just to make sure you're all the way done. Right there. And let's see. But I'll leave that open in case she wants to come out in a minute. And let's see. The other one, yeah, is small for its age, really small for its age, but it is growing, and its eyes don't seem to be as problematic, and it does seem to have pretty normal hips. Hello, HC Aqua in the house. Oh, and thank you, Heather, for answering that question about Jay's question. Yeah, it is the Isopod's Best Pet video. Hayden Kennedy, thank you. I'm glad you love my videos. Yeah, it went to 38,000K in just a couple of days from like, I don't know, I had like 3,000 or 4,000, 5,000, something like that. I don't know exactly. To 38,000K in a few days. It was pretty funny. And the 2 goldfish, the light's off right now. I don't know if you can see them very well. But the 2 goldfish are right here. And yeah, the light's off. You're not going to be able to see them very well. But they are doing pretty well. They are, let's see, figure out the age. The big white one with the red head, we got her when she was already an adult, but so she was probably at least 2 or 3 when we got her. Pondy. And then it's been 7, 8 years since we got her, I think. And then the orange one, Rory, is a little bit, we've had him for a little less time, but not a whole lot. Maybe a year or 2 less than that. So we probably had him about 6 years, and he was probably at least a couple years old when we got him. Let's see. HC Aqua. My uncle caught me a poison dart frog, but he said it died in 16 minutes in the containers. Wasn't in the sun and used mesh as a cover? I wonder why. That is weird. It could be stress related to the capture, possibly. I mean, who knows? That's sad, though. I'm sorry you lost it. That's not cool. It's very sad and very fast. Let's see. Animal facts. Any updates on the Mourning Gecko? Sure. I've got 10 hatchlings at least right now. that are available for sale, and they're doing well, and the adults are also going crazy, doing well. Angel Delight, one of my mourning geckos laid an egg about 3 days ago, which another one ate, but I haven't seen any more eggs. Okay, I'm going to switch you over so I can sit down, okay? I want to sit down. This is the wrong side of the room. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out. I got stuff all over the floor. You don't want to see that. Okay, you want to see this side? At least I hope you do. Okay. Let's see. So one of my mourning geckos laid an egg about 3 days ago. This is too bright, I think. Let's see if I can. Is that a little better? I'm going to try that. Okay. Laid an egg about 3 days ago, which another one ate, but I haven't seen any more eggs. How often will they lay eggs and how many? They lay eggs approximately every month in my experience, but they don't lay every month. They skip a month here and there, especially when it gets too hot or too cold for optimal temperatures. They generally lay 2 at a time, but they will sometimes lay 1. I've never seen more than 2 in the, how many years? 6 or 7 years or so that I've been keeping them. I've never seen one lay more than 2, but they do occasionally lay 1. And if one was eaten shortly after hatching, it may have been either infertile or otherwise inviable. That's my experience as well. And just in case anyone was wondering, my snakes finally polished off those rats. Bought 1 rat and fed off my snakes for a full month. Well, there you go. That's a pretty good deal, at least. Yeah, stress does make sense. And H.C. Akabo, you're right. You have mourning geckos in the wild. That's where I learned about mourning geckos, in fact, was when I lived in Hawaii, and I kind of fell in love with them. They'd come into our house. There's the house geckos. They're the ones, the Hemidactylus. And then there's the Indo-Pacific gecko. Whoa, sorry. Oh, that was scary. The snake was getting caught in the chair. Sorry. I could feel something weird going on there. I'm going to close this so we don't have any altercations between you two, because that would be bad. Okay, so sorry, things are a little crazy today. And I would encounter the Indo-Pacific geckos and the house geckos and the mourning geckos, and there were a few others that I would see outside once in a while, especially the day geckos. They have some Felsumas. They have feral populations of Felsuma day geckos, a couple different species there, and then they've got tokays and things like that as well. So it's pretty awesome there. But the mourning geckos are, and you do only need 1 to reproduce because they're essentially all females, and the males don't mate with the females anyway when they occasionally show up, and they're extremely rare. I've seen 1 picture of one. And yes, the snake may well have been trying to do that. Smelling something interesting over there. And Angel Delight says the egg had just been laid as if not seen it early in the day. Checked later, there was half an egg and one of my geckos eating it. I removed the rest of the egg, but it just crumbled apart. Okay, yeah. It's very normal for them to eat them if they are inviable for whatever reason, or if they get cracked, they will do that. And that's okay, because they reclaim the calcium and protein. And Jojo in the cut. If you see mourning geckos with eggs, you see your mourning gecko has eggs. Excuse me. Still have a bit of a cough. If you say your mourning gecko has eggs in her, because you can usually see them through the belly, it may be up to a few weeks before she lays them, just depending on temperature and so on. Animal facts. One of my mourning gecko sides are getting bigger. Is this a sign she's gravid or just putting on weight? She could very well be gravid. And it's possible she's not, but they tend to be gravid if they're mature and healthy most of the time. You know, shortly after they lay eggs, they start on a new cycle. So it's very possible. If you can see white patches on her belly from the underside, then it's very, very likely indeed that she is gravid. So that's probably what's going on, I'm thinking. And Jay's crazy obsession. Crazy to see how fast that guy grew. Watched the video where he got the snake. Yeah, we've had this guy for a year, and he's gotten considerably larger in that time. Last time I weighed him, he was 279 grams, and that's not even a month after the last weigh-in. So where he was 220 or something. He's been growing a lot. He grows like crazy. He eats like crazy. I'm trying to make sure he doesn't eat too much, but I don't think he is. So It's been fun to watch him grow. I just measured him the other day, and he was, what was it, 35 inches long, I think. Am I right? I have a record of it, but I don't remember exactly what it was. But he's grown 11 inches, I think, in length, and about 250 grams, no, 220 grams more than he was when we got him, something like that. I think so. Okay. During last weekend, I did did aquarium class with my kids. One of my coworkers made sure I didn't give my biggest dairy cow isopod to any kids because it is their favorite. Well, that's not surprising. Dairy cows are so cool. I'm going to bring out some dairy cows if I can, if I have a chance to do that. They are one of my favorites too. Angel Delight. And I'll bring out my my Porcelia magnificus, and we can see if we can see any of the monkey that showed up last time. Oh, Supreme Gecko. Nice idea. Like spike. Can we do it? Can we do a like spike? That would be awesome. Let's see. Last question. Sorry if I'm annoying you, but do you have any tips to remove the eggs safely without breaking them? Now I know they're old enough to lay. I keep checking several times a day. Oh, we got some more likes. There was a spike. Thank you. Awesome. Oh, bigger spike. We went from 13 to 21 in a few seconds. Very nice. I would consider that a decent like spike. Let's see. And, okay, so Angel Delight. I do not recommend removing the eggs if they are attached to something unless you can remove that something. If they're attached to a leaf, for example. I sometimes put floral tubes in my gecko vivariums lined with dark paper to see if they will lay in them. They don't lay in them all that often. I've only had it happen a few times. They love them as hides, but they haven't laid in them very much. They usually lay up really high, and that's where I put the floral tubes. But it doesn't seem to matter. Okay, you're good then. It doesn't seem to matter that they're up there high and they're nice and dark. Wow, you're interested in what's going on over there, but you can't get in anymore, so you're okay. So I would say you could try that. You can also try putting some slabs of cork in up high in a way that they're detachable, and try that, because they do love to lay on cork, like a cork tube or a cork flat, something like that. That might work. It's worth a try. Gator Dave, do you suggest putting springtails in an isopod colony? Absolutely. I have springtails in probably all of my isopod colonies. If I don't put them in, they eventually show up, but I think I try to put them in all of them. I absolutely recommend it because they are good at catching the things that the isopods don't catch in terms of mold and things like that. Because isopods will sometimes, they can help prevent mold by eating things before they get moldy, but the isopods, the springtails will go straight after the mold. So if it's a little too late for the isopods to prevent the mold, the springtails will help by taking care of it. It just makes for a more diverse ecosystem, so it's more stable, and it totally works. So I would do it. Bored Goat is going to get some dairy cows. Highly recommend them. Can't recommend them enough. So Jojo in the cut. What isopods are good for mourning geckos? It's a tricky question. A couple of species I can recommend are the dwarf purples and the dwarf striped. There aren't very many that I find thrive with mourning geckos because mourning geckos will eat them, but those two are ones that I have tried and succeeded with because they burrow enough that the mourning geckos don't get them all. And so those are the ones I'd recommend. I have put other ones in there only to find they get eaten. And so, yeah, that's what I would go with. There are probably some other species that would work. I've considered trying giant canyons with them because the giant canyons burrow so much and get so big that the adults aren't going to eat the adults. The adult mourning geckos are not going to eat the adult isopods, but I haven't tried that, so I can't really recommend it. But it's worth might be worth the experiment. Jay's Crazy Obsessions. Oh, he's picked out his baby Super Red, and he's gotta catch it. Yeah, they can be tricky to catch, especially since Super Red is a kind of a pleco, for those of you who don't know, bristlenose catfish, and the males especially can be tricky to catch. They all have these spiky structures called odontodes. They are like a hand with bristles on the end that they can stick out of the sides of their head, and they catch on nets and stuff. So they're really tricky to deal with. But they're really fun. I love those. And, okay, trying to catch up. You guys think you can train a gecko like an iguana to only hang out on specific locations when outside the cage? I don't know. That's a good question. I think geckos are less, it depends on the gecko, of course, but a lot of them are less about basking than iguanas are. And it seems iguanas are fairly easy to train that way, but I think geckos would be harder, but it probably depends on the gecko. Okay. Yeah, the cork tubes may help. I hope they do. And the zombie drummer, do you have a source you can recommend for springtails? Well, I carry them. I sell lots of springtails, and I always have lots and lots of springtails. I've got, I always have half a dozen large cultures producing hundreds all the time. So if you're in the continental U.S., I'm a pretty good source. Other good sources you can go to, just about any dart frog supplier will carry them. Who else? Let's see, Bugs in Cyberspace is a good place to get them. He always has them. Places like Roach Crossing, he always has got them, so hopefully that helps. All right. Welcome, Baron Adventures. Supreme Gecko says, isopods for mourning geckos, giant canyons, and little sea roly-poly. See, the little Cubaris marina, I haven't tried that one. I want to. That makes sense. And interesting that the giant canyons, you've tried those and they work. So cool. That's awesome. And Jay's Crazy Obsessions. I am glad I make your long Wednesdays a little bit shorter. That's awesome. Austin Payne. Small mites in my Hoffman's egg eye substrate. Not necessarily a huge problem. If you haven't introduced springtails, do so. But I find that by providing a healthy ecosystem for the isopods, generally you'll get to the point where the mites are not a huge problem. They may be a few of them in there. But if you're providing the right quantities of food and so on, and there are springtails in there, the mites are not going to overcome anybody. That has been my experience. Let's see. Oh, Jay's Crazy Obsessions. Yeah, I wonder if they see their siblings being caught and they just know what to do about it. They know they've got to run. I feel like I could lower this just a little bit and be a little bit more comfortable. Just a second. Sorry. That's probably too much. See how it goes. That's not too bad. It feels like it's kind of leaning, but it's probably all right. Okay. So, let's see. I'm glad, Board Goat. That's awesome. That is the purpose of a live stream, to try to spread a little bit of information around, some Q&A. So I'm glad it's helping. And Heather Jensen, gave some of your Spanish horn and dairy cows from me to a research student from the University of Iowa, and she squealed with delight. That's awesome. Oh, and thanks, Wally, for putting my store up there. That is really helpful. I should have thought of that, and I didn't, but I'm glad you did. That's why you're the mod, Supreme Gecko. You know how to do this kind of stuff. You think about it. That's awesome. I really appreciate all your work as a mod that you've been doing since you started. And HC Aqua, would you ship to Hawaii? Generally, I find it's really hard to ship to Hawaii. I'm not saying it's impossible. We might be able to work something out, but having lived there and having shipped things out of Hawaii, I kind of got my start in, selling things online by, I would grow aquarium plants and then ship them out of Hawaii, and that's kind of how I got my start. And I had to bring them into the plant quarantine and inspection station and get them inspected, and then finish packing them up and then have them shipped out. I had to do that every single time. And shipping things into Hawaii is no easier. But I can look into it. If you have a specific thing you want me to look into, I can try to find whether or not it's feasible. Oh yes, Baron Adventures. Good point. Josh's Frog, since they're a dart frog supply company, they totally have springtail, so that's worth a try as well. So, animal facts. Is the mold in your fruit fly culture black, white? What does it look like? I would tend to say if you have mold, just start trying a new culture instead. Okay. So, Austin, it may just be that you don't have to worry a whole lot, especially if you're keeping most of your culture pretty dry. You should always have a moist hide for the Hoffman's egg eye. But as long as you keep the rest of the culture pretty dry, I don't think the mites are going to be a big deal, especially as the springtails will probably tend to inhabit the same parts of the culture that the springtails are going to inhabit, and will probably just outcompete them eventually. So, okay, HC Aqua. Having the import permit is a huge help. If you maybe want to, shoot me an email and say what you've done to get things imported in the past and what the people on the other end have gotten, it would give me a leg up and help me get a good start on the research. So, because I would love that, and I'd be happy to ship to if we can make it work. So Austin Payne. And so if the mites are just in small numbers, probably not a problem. And it sounds like they are just in small numbers. So just keep an eye on them. If the population starts going crazy, then it is a problem. But other than that, you're probably good. I have mites in a few of my cultures a little bit, especially when the cultures are younger. But as they mature and the isopods get to the point where they're eating a lot of the food really fast, there's nothing much for the mites to eat, especially with the springtails in there. So hopefully that'll happen too. Early on, when I was keeping stuff in the hobby, I had problems with mites more in the isopod cultures, but honestly, the cultures have grown to the point where they don't do much. But the beginning of a culture is always a little more vulnerable because you have a low population and a fairly large culture container, so there are a lot of untapped resources, and nature abhors a vacuum, so you're going to get creatures that are going to move in like the mites. It's nice to start a culture if you can. I mean, it's traditional to start a culture of isopods with, say, 10 to 12 isopods, and there's nothing wrong with it per se. But if you can start with 24 or 36, you're going to have less of a vacuum, so to speak, in that you're going to have fewer untapped resources. The isopods are going to be consuming more of those resources, making fewer resources available for, opportunistic pests like mites. So it's more expensive, but it can be helpful. So, okay, so in the colder months, is it wise to order springtails or isopods? I have a 50-gallon bioactive enclosure I started working on, but I need custodians. I'm worried they won't survive shipping. Honestly, springtails and isopods, except for, the really tropical species, hopefully that's not causing a problem for the mic. Hopefully this is not making a mess. He just pulled the mic off of my shirt and is holding it in his tail. So let me know if it's causing big sound problems. Otherwise, I'm just going to let him hold it for a while. And Philip, you're right. He is kind of adorable. So they really ship pretty well, except for the tropical species. I wouldn't necessarily ship like dwarf whites in the winter unless you're doing heat pack and probably overnight just to be super safe. But most of the isopods and springtails do totally well. I mean, you don't want them to freeze, so a heat pack is good, but I use 72-hour heat packs and ship them priority most of the time. Sometimes I'll do overnight if people want that, but the priority 2 or 3 day, and have very, very few problems with it. So I wouldn't worry about that very much. I've even had isopods arrive late because they get lost in the mail or whatever. For various reasons, they arrive late. I had some isopods get to me last year in December. They had been in the mail a week because they got lost. The post office did some really strange time traveling kind of stuff with the package. It said it had been delivered 3 months before it got sent and all this stuff. It was crazy. But the he's a bendy mic stand. He is. It's kind of fun. I'm just going to let him hold it for a while if it's not causing problems. I guess it's not. But anyway, I would say it took me a week to get the package. The heat pack by that time, of course, had been long gone. It was rock solid and stone cold. And every single isopod was fine. And there were different kinds. There were, I want to say powder oranges, dairy cows, and what else was in there? I don't remember. There were like 3 different species in there. Maybe those were I think they were magic potions. They were all fine. Even though it was December and it gets really cold here, and the heat pack was long since dead. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, unless they're a really tropical species. So Jojo in the cut, do isopods and springtails need a drainage layer in a bioactive tank? It's pretty small, so it doesn't fit too much into it, but I'd like to be self-maintenance. Is it possible in an 8x8x8 Exoterra? They don't necessarily need a drainage layer. Most of my isopods don't have one. In a bioactive tank, in the bioactive tanks like these, oh yeah, I use the drainage layer, but I have used them in other tanks without one. I feel like a drainage layer is awesome and it really helps, but as long as you keep the substrate at the right moisture levels, which is maybe trickier than it sounds, it can be done, and the isopods and springtails won't mind. Basically keeping the correct moisture levels is going to be your issue there. Okay, you dropped a microphone. You're okay with that now? Okay. And put it back. He's hungry today, so that's his deal. This is his feeding day, those of you who don't know. And that's why he's so active today. Usually he's just a really super chill snake, and he loves to sit here. You know how ball pythons will sit there when you watch a movie and just sit with you? That's this guy. That's what he usually does. He'll just sit there on your lap and chill, or around your hand, or around my neck. He just loves it. But when he's hungry, he kind of gets active like this, so it's not bad. Yep. Okay, so HCX, we just need to include my permit viewable on the outside of the box. I'm hoping to get some flightless fruit flies since they stopped bringing it in. I'll email you. Thanks. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Let's see if we can make that work. Sounds like it's very possible. Okay. Okay, so Barren Adventures. Since you are looking for tropical, there's going to be some risk. But I would say if you're going to do it, go ahead and ship overnight and use a heat pack. And then you'll probably be okay with some good insulation. But don't do it priority, and don't do it without a heat pack. That would be my... Well, you know, it depends on the weather. If the weather's like in the 60s in both places and it's not going to pass anywhere where it gets really cold in the meantime, probably okay too. But they're really a little bit more sensitive. And yeah, if you know of a link where you can get a mic stand like this one, let me know. We'll put it in there. So, Philip Kwok, is there a particular method to getting isopods to breed, or do they do that on their own when conditions are good? If conditions are good and you have males and females, and in some cases you don't even need that, you're good. They're going to breed. Okay, just 1 second, everybody. Ciao. My wife has taken off, so I just wanted to say bye. All right. And Heather Jensen, do you ever dress your tanks for holidays? They sometimes do lights or animal skulls for Halloween. I haven't really done that, but I kind of like the idea. It seems like maybe the kids have done that a little bit. I think we put Christmas lights on this vivarium once, maybe. We ought to do that more. It's kind of fun. So Supreme Gecko, we all know how popular dairy cows, hops, and duckies are, but what are two of your most underrated isopods that you enjoy keeping? I wish I could go into the other room and look at them for a minute. But I'm going to say, I love the powder oranges. I think the powder oranges are underrated because they're really a nice velvety texture of orange. Their color is really cool, and they breed super fast. They make excellent bioactive isopods for, you know, a cleanup crew. They're exceptional that way, and they breed really, really fast, and they're just fun to watch. They move fast, so that's one of them. I would say that's an underrated one. I'm trying to go through them in my head here. It's easier if I go in the other room, probably, huh? I think probably zebra pillbugs, because even though they're popular, I don't think people... They're somewhat popular. I think they've kind of been pushed out of place by, you know, the cubaris that are coming out of Southeast Asia and stuff like that. But they're awesome. They are really cool, and they're actually really pretty active in the daytime compared to a lot of other Armadillidium. Their patterns are absolutely fantastic. They come in a lot of morphs. It would be hard to say, but those are probably two underrated isopods. There you go. I hope that helps. I feel like, for me, dairy cows were underrated, but I think they're finally coming into their own as really popular isopods, and that's deservedly so. And if I had to pick a favorite isopod all around, that might be it, just because they're so fantastic in so many ways. But, yeah, there you go. So Barren Adventures, the orange ones are actually not tropical if you're talking about Porcellio scabbard, or you're talking about Porcellio laevis or Porcellionides pruinosus. None of those are tropical, so they might be okay. Porcellio laevis is a very protein-hungry isopod, and so depending on what you're keeping, it might not be the best option. What are you going to keep in that vivarium? Let's see. Okay. Also, does mixing different species of isopods result in crossbreeding? Do they return to wild colors, or do color morphs appear? Okay. Different species do not appear to cross. Different morphs of the same species do cross in some cases, and apparently not in others, as far as we know. For example, Porcellus scabromorphs will cross. I have crossed Dalmatians with the Spanish orange and gotten orange Dalmatians. I wasn't the first to do it, but I did it early on before isopods really became really popular. I was doing that because someone named Ryan Orr was the first one to do it, and I communicated with him about it, and then I tried it, and it worked. And that was a long time ago. That was a few years ago when I did that, before it was, like I said, before it was popular. And they will cross, the calicos will cross in. There's so many different other Porcellus scabromorphs. They will all cross. There is some information out there now that not all of the laevis morphs will cross. I am trying to cross Porcellus laevis dairy cow with oranges. I have a video about it. And they say that it may not work. There may actually be, they may have diverged somewhat in the shape of their phylopods. I think phylopods is, no, pleopods, is that the word I'm looking for? Sorry. I'm trying to think while my snake is stuck in my chair. So I think it's pleopods, that they're the mating structures of the male, and they've changed shape and they can no longer mate. I don't know. On Instagram, I had a little video of a male orange laevis trying to mate with a dairy cow. So at least they are attempting to do it. Whether or not it's going to be successful is something else. Is it safe that some wild fruit flies get into my mourning gecko tank? Probably. They're probably not safe for the fruit flies. They're probably going to get eaten. And as long as the fruit flies haven't been exposed to pesticides, you're probably good. Which one is the BHB website? I'm drawing a blank on that one, Jay's Crazy Obsessions. Everett Fisher, shout out to the gecko sneaking up the glass in the background. Yeah, earlier in the stream, where is she now? Earlier in the stream she was out, but she decided she needed to go to the loo, so I put her back in. A little too late, I might add. Okay, I'm just gonna let you play for a minute, but I'll keep an eye on you. And Wally, I'm glad you like my choice. They're fun, they're really cool. Trauma Team, the rest just got my Lampropeltis alterna in the morning and he's already eaten for me, nice. Awesome. Hope you're doing well. Yes, I am. I mean, that's good to hear. And oh, some eggs is in the house too. Nice. And Jay's Crazy Obsessions. Just want to know what your thoughts on a vertical 55-gallon for mourning geckos. How many do you think I could keep? Happy. Keep in mind I'd flip it so the tank is tall, not long. Wow, you could keep a lot in there. Let me do a little calculation in my head. I think you could keep at least 30, probably more. Because one thing I always tell people, I tell people that remember that mourning geckos are going to use the ceiling and the walls just as well as everything else in there. And so they're getting access to a lot more space than, say, dart frogs will, because they will climb up the walls a little bit, some quite a bit. Mine do, but not. They're not going to use the sheer glass space as much as the mourning geckos will. So, Barren Adventures. I'm actually keeping 2 tree frogs and 2 Caribbean anoles. Okay, or anoles, depending on how you say it. Let's see, or anole. Some people say that. Okay. Are you okay, buddy? He looks fine. He just kind of dropped a few inches down, but he's okay. He didn't like slam to the floor or anything. He's still holding onto the chair. All right. So, and if this is the, what size is this? 18 by 18 by 18? Yeah, you could probably put Porcellus scabra in there, or one of the, I'm really interested in more about the Silisticus convexus. They seem to be an incredible cleaner isopod. They reproduce fast. They burrow themselves pretty fast, so I don't think they get eaten as quickly as some others. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I think they're probably a possible option for you as well. And a species that I haven't really gotten into yet is Venezuela parvus. I want to play around with that one a little bit in terms of an underrated, cleaner isopod. Yeah, and they are teeny, so that is a lot of geckos. You could probably do way more than 30 actually, because I'll keep 6 in a 12 by 12 by 18 easily, no problem, adults. So my female Ambelope panther chameleon looks like she's going to lay at least 70 eggs. Wow, I'm worried about her. Apparently panthers usually don't survive laying that much. Yeah, I've heard that laying is really hard on female chameleons. They don't really live that long. That's sad. I hope it goes well with her. AZ. There is a difference between grindleworms and microworms. Grindleworms are a small relative of the earthworm, but they can get up to an inch long. I have raised grindleworms to get up to an inch long. In most culture situations, they don't. They usually are about, a quarter to half an inch long, and they are great food for a lot of things. They're pretty fatty. They're great for conditioning fish, for getting growth on young fish that are big enough to eat them, things like that. But they're fairly big compared to microworms. Microworms are a nematode worm, so not very closely related at all. And microworms stay very, very tiny. They only get to maybe a millimeter long or so, and much thinner. They're like hair thin. So they're an alternative to like baby brine shrimp. I have good success using microworms feeding the same kinds of fish I would feed baby brine shrimp to. I also like baby brine shrimp, of course, for that. But that is the difference. Microworms don't get any bigger than that. They're in fact in cross-section thinner than a baby brine shrimp, so fish that can't quite handle a baby brine shrimp may be able to handle microworms because they slurp them up like spaghetti. So that's the difference. You're going to be offering the microworms to much smaller fish than the grindleworms, essentially, from a practical standpoint. Heather, would you ever try to grow oyster mushrooms in a vivarium? I've thought about it, but I've not tried yet. I don't know. I've grown porcini mushrooms before, just outside of a vivarium, just to eat. Or not porcini, portobello mushrooms. I've just grown them on the bricks that you get and grow them. But that would be an interesting experience. Okay, Barren Adventures, yeah. You could do Porcelaria scabber, you could do quite a few different types in there. And with the tree frogs, one you might consider is Oniscus ocellus, if you're gonna have tree frogs in there and the anoles, because I know at least some tree frogs are not all that interested in eating the Oniscus because they're a little spiky and so they don't like to eat them. So some eggs. Do you still breed mealworms using the method in the video on your channel? You know, that's my favorite method so far. I've been experimenting with some other methods lately, but I like that method better. I think I get better results for less work, so I'm going to go back to it. Just the cocoa fiber, 1.5 inches or so of cocoa fiber, and then feeding them. I'm probably going to feed vegetables though. Not just use the water crystals. The water crystals work great, but I think they're obviously getting more nutrition if I put like carrot slices and things like that in there, so I'm going to do that as well. I mean, I guess I used sweet potatoes in that method as well, and other things like that. But I would probably use fewer water crystals and more vegetables, but other than that, yeah, I'd still do it. That method is a good one. And being too big for 3 to 6 babies. So Jay's Crazy Obsessions. I forgot what we're talking about. Please remind me, sorry. What kind of crested gecko diet is good for mourning geckos? I've been using mango rapashi and also feeding fruit flies, but should I vary up the diet more? Some people say crushed banana is also good. Mourning geckos are not very particular. Once they get used to a particular crested gecko diet, sometimes they take a while to adjust to one. I've used the rapashi, I've used Pangea. I'm pretty sure I've used a couple more different types. Yeah, I have. I can't recall all the types that I've used. Right now I'm using the Pangea complete with the insects. They have the black soldier flies and whatnot in there. They really love that one, and I think they grow faster on it because it's got more protein stuff. So I think you can use just about anything for crested gecko diet for mourning geckos, but so there you go. I think you can use whatever, and I think crushed banana is fine once in a while. If you're feeding the fruit flies, make sure you're dusting them with calcium powder at least some of the time, and There you go. I think you'll do fine with just about any crested gecko diet. In fact, there are people who have raised the mourning geckos on nothing but crested gecko diet and bred them, and they do fine. Crested geckos really grow a lot faster with insects added to their diet, but mourning geckos do pretty well even without them, as long as they're getting the crested gecko diet. But the one with the insects, the Pangea complete with the insects, really seems to do the job for me. Oh, okay, 55 on its side for mourning geckos, 3 to 6, too large. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, sorry. There's just so many things going on. So if you were to put 3 to 6 babies in a 55, depends on the density of food available in there. If you're offering crested gecko diet and they know where the station is, especially I would offer a couple of different stations, maybe even 3, one on the left side and one on the right side and one somewhere else, or something like that where it's going to be hard not to find the food, then I think they'd be okay. But honestly, if I had my choice, it depends on the age you're getting them at too. If they're tiny little hatchlings, I probably wouldn't put them in there. I would let them grow up for at least a month first. If you're getting juveniles that are a little bit bigger, I wouldn't worry about it. I think you're fine. Say 2 to 3 months old, you're going to be fine. Do offer more than one feeding station with the crested gecko diet in addition to whatever insects you're offering, but I think you'll be okay. So some eggs, I want to try raising mealworms, but I always end up feeding them before they start breeding. Yeah, I know how that can be. But yeah, they're a pretty great food as long as you're not overfeeding on them and you make sure you get the calcium and vitamin supplements. They do fine. They're a good food and they're easy, very easy. I like to have them on hand for a lot of our inverts as well as our leopard gecko. Her main diet is both mealworms and crickets, so it's nice to have both. And roaches. See, I wish I could use roaches, but I cannot. Oh man. Excuse me. I am running out of time. I'm going to have to go because I've got a lot of recording to do. I've got to feed this snake. I've got to feed my baby garter snakes. Lots of stuff going on. So I must go. I went a little longer than I thought I would, but that's okay because I enjoyed the chatting with you, and I hope to catch you in the next stream. And check out my next video on Friday. If you haven't seen my Instagram account, you can check that out. Everything I post on my Instagram goes to Twitter and to Facebook as well. And I agree, Wally, 20-gallon extra high would be nice for instead of a 55, but if I put my first mourning gecko vivarium in a 20 high and it was great. So, all right. Well, Texas Fishing with Dan the Man, a little bit late, but that's okay. We'll catch you next time, hopefully. And you're welcome, everyone. Thanks for all those likes. We got 30 likes. That's pretty good for a stream. James Rogers, what do you do for hard water? You mean in a vivarium? I just use distilled water when I mist all my vivariums to avoid getting the hard water stains. Hopefully that helps. And that makes sense, Jay's Crazy Obsession. If you already got the 55, maybe that's why. That makes a lot of sense. Well, I better go, guys. Thanks for joining in, and that would be awesome, Mr. Snake. I'd love to see that. And catch you next time. Thanks a lot.